Afreximbank launches $4 billion Ukraine crisis adjustment trade financing program for Africa, reviving textile and garment industries on federal government's radar, says Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. Technology stocks in Asia Pacific fall. 10-year U.S. Treasury yield surges, and oil mixed as new Russia sanctions offset demand worries. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Beni Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us at this particular point when we talk business. And we'll start by telling you that President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed the conviction that Nigeria is on its way to becoming Africa's fertilizer powerhouse. Granting audience to the executive committee members of the Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria, the president said already the country is a global player in the urea space.
A key indicator of how successful our policies are is the fact that we had no shortage of fertilizers during the COVID lockdowns. Today, I am pleased to hear that we will not have any shortages in Nigeria because of the Eastern European conflicts that have impacted the global fertilizer trade. All these trends indicate our backward integration policy was the right policy.
Today, sir, many nations who rely on fertilizer import are facing acute fertilizer shortage. Nigeria remains one of the few countries in Africa and indeed the world where fertilizer availability is not an issue. Mr. President, for the 2022 wet season, I would like to declare to you and all Nigerians that FEPSAN is ready, willing, and able to ensure fertilizer are available in all the parts of the country. Nigeria should not panic. Your Excellency, the CBN currently has a balance of stock of fertilizer from the last planting season under the bank's Anchor Borers program to the tune of 1.95 million bags of fertilizer and have committed additional 2.6 million bags for use during our 2022 program. For that reason, we are optimistic that fertilizer will be available to our own smallholder farmers at considerably reduced price.
And the Board of Directors of African Export-Import Bank on the 31st of March 2022 says it has approved the launch of Ukraine Crisis Adjustment Trade Financing Program for Africa, a $4 billion program of credit facilities that the bank has developed to manage the impact of the Ukraine crisis on African economies and businesses. Speaking after a board meeting of the bank held in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, Professor Benedict Orama, President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Afreximbank, said he is delighted that the bank's board has approved the introduction of the UCAFA, once again demonstrating their responsiveness to the needs of African member states and their citizens. The initiative will contribute immensely to averting social anxiety and upheaval that may arise from looming food shortages and high cost of fertilizer and petroleum products. The UKAFPA program is to cushion the effect of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, which escalated on 24th February 2022 and has had significant effect on the global economy, given the importance of both Russia and Ukraine as sources of crude oil and gas, raw materials and grains. The outbreak of the conflict has wider repercussions on a global scale, including adversely affecting African economies, especially those that rely heavily on grain, fertilizer, and fuel imports. Now, joining me to continue conversation on how the war in Ukraine is affecting market fundamentals with attendant global ramification on trade and commerce is the first Deputy National President, Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, and the Chairman, Nigeria-Turkey Business Council. Mr. Dele Oye, you are welcome to Business Express. Hello, Mr. Dele, are you with me?
I don't know, the audio is very low.
Okay, but I can hear you clearly. I think it's a technical thing. We're going to have a better reception. And if you can hear me louder now, the Russia-Ukraine war is no doubt a major blow to the global economy that will hurt growth, raise prices, and inflation that is already happening. How is this affecting or going to affect trade and commerce in Africa?
Well, thank you very much. The issue of foreign exchange for any developing country like Nigeria is a recurring problem, especially having regard to our very limited resources. Especially a country like Nigeria with a mono product, which is oil and gas. And we are also faced with a very ridiculous situation where currently about, as we are hearing, though it's not been verified by NNPC, a substantial part of that oil, the crude, is stolen through the pipelines. This has produced or resulted in huge challenge to the federal government and indeed Nigerians, because that are mainstay in foreign exchange earnings. What this has done essentially has made it very difficult for local manufacturers to have enough. Just don't look at local manufacturers and service providers to have enough forex to meet their various challenges and usage. The war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, and indeed the COVID-19 have added a further dimension because have made it very difficult, or at least increased prices for various goods and services almost all over the world. We are having that same challenge in Nigeria. And though they have been attempted by the central bank to come up with various policies, we all know it's not an issue of policies, it's an issue of need. When there's no availability of resources, it's difficult for central bank to make any magic out of it. Even as at last year, between December and March of last year, we're already having demand of about $1.4 billion in deficit for foreign exchange. And within 3 months, another $300 million were added, which is about 1.7 deficit. And between last year and this year, it has been growing. And with the corresponding poor availability for manufacturers and service providers, we have companies in Nigeria who are producing, who are unable to remit their profit. And they have a whole lot of backlog in the airline industry, in the manufacturing sector. And this also produces another huge challenge to Nigeria in the sense that you're asking people to come and invest, but they're not able to remit their funds out. So that itself is counterproductive to our various programs of the government.
Okay, Mr. Oye, with this threat to return on investment, would you say this is likely to affect business confidence? Is business confidence in jeopardy?
Yes, in fact, the biggest, as an investor, the first thing you think of when you look at the global scale It will say, if I take my money anywhere, can I take it out when I want to? If the answer is no, naturally, we will not be one of those areas any investor would like to go, unless for maybe sentimental reasons. And that produces a huge challenge. And you can see what our sister country in Ghana has done, that in terms of, for the first time, they are attracting a whole lot of capital, which usually is a decision shoes to be in Nigeria. I can give you another example. Where there are challenges of this shortage of forests, manufacturers are not able to bring in raw materials or machinery. It creates a problem where manufacturers have to go to the parallel market. That in itself triggers inflation and reduces capacity of the locals to be able to even buy the products, even though they are producing in Nigeria. What that is itself creates in itself, it also redeems local confidence. Because if people are not able to afford the goods produced based on the parallel market foreign exchange, it's a huge challenge.
Okay,
Both to
we've had
employment,
you.
because the manufacturer will have their warehouse stock with goods without an ability to sell them. So what that means is the manufacturer naturally cut back on activities. And these are the part of our problem in Nigeria, is also linked to our security issues. It's the issue of lack of opportunity. If people are not employing, manufacturers are cutting back. You don't leave our teaming youths out there to the elements. And that is part of the huge problem we at the Chamber of Commerce are saying, that we need a more forensic planning, working closely with the private sector so that the little that is available can be better managed. And government tools will also ensure the freight that will be reported of the oil pipelines, the crude oil being stolen, that they should better monitor it so that we can increase our basket. Look at what Iraq has just done. Iraq, during this short period, has been able to raise $11 billion, which is a better record than since the 1972 projection, because they're able to manage their crude oil and export, taking advantage of the new prices. But Nigeria is not able to, because even our refining and production capacity is even falling because of leverage. So these are huge challenges which government should look at and address quickly.
Okay, I understand with the challenge that has been experienced with Forex and with efforts being made by the central bank and other monetary policies to ensure that this is available, particularly for manufacturers. You're the chairman of Nigeria Turkey Business Council, and I know recently there has been this reach out bilateral business MOUs being signed with Turkey and other partners in the West to actually support technically the Nigerian manufacturing sector. With this recovery process and with these challenges in Ukraine and Russia, how is that helping? And what in-house solution is being adopted to actually meet up some of these challenges?
Well, I would say, first of all, that the Nigeria and Turkey have a shared history. And recently, there's been a huge political effort to bring Nigeria, indeed Africa and Turkey together. And I think it has started yielding fruits, even from our various markets, even though the official rates, it says the business is still below $5 billion. But I think it's far more than that, because Turkey, almost everywhere you go in our households, our markets, Turkish goods are replacing the old Chinese goods or the Indian goods. What this has done for all of us is that Turkey gives us a better opportunity for the good quality, far better quality, as European standard, at lesser price. And indeed, because of the proximity of Turkey to Nigeria, if you save the shipping cost between China and Nigeria, is half. So that itself also makes the goods slightly cheaper than if you have to import from China. But the most important thing about Turkey, I must say, they're not just interested in just exporting to Nigeria. They also want to get Nigerian goods into Turkish markets. And this is what we are working closely at the Chamber of Commerce, the Nigerian Association of Chamber of Commerce, at NACIBA, to make sure we encourage our members to increase their productive capacity and also to look for goods that are exportable to Turkey. We have done various trade missions. We also have several lined up between Nigeria and Turkey this year so that we can actually link both markets and link the manufacturing sector, all the various services we do in Nigeria with the Turkish market. I think by the end of the year, we're going to increase the business climate between Nigeria and Turkey. But we still need foreign exchange to be able to trade, or at least we should find a way that we can increase capacity locally so that we can take the benefit. I don't want Nigeria to be a dumping ground for Turkey goods. I also want Nigeria to have a reasonable balance of trade. Although currently the balance of trade is in favor of Nigeria because they import our LNG and several other products into Turkey.
Okay, back to the effects of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, where sanctions have been placed on Russia, and Russia, in retaliation, is cutting off energy supply as well as wheat to other parts of the world. How is Africa going to take advantage of this? What can we supplement, not just to other parts of Africa as Nigeria, but also to Europe?
Well, I've already mentioned our huge challenge in that area is the issue of pilferage of our products and crude oil. Government need to find a way. And I think as a Chamber of Commerce personally, I would suggest if the communities have higher stakes in terms of they have direct benefits from the operations of these oil companies, they are our biggest police and best police in this. Because if they know the end product, they will get something. And I think they will supplement and at least also assist security agencies to ensure that we get almost 100% of what is produced at the export terminal. But what we are having now is that people are running their own private refineries. You go to states like River State, the whole place, the whole climate is affected because people are just stealing the crude and refining it. We have to find a better way, better mechanism of encouraging the local person or the community-based guys to them to know that oil is actually exported. There's something inside. That way, they themselves know that the bottom line they are going to share in it. They will make sure that the oil gets to the terminal. So these are huge challenges. We are not able to take any huge advantage now. Although Turkey is playing a non-aligned role in the current fight, in the sense that they've not imposed any sanction on Russia. But nevertheless, there's a huge global demand for crude oil. And we are not part of it. In fact, this would really be what they say in local parlance our cocoa season. But we are not having any impact. Rather, we are still not earning anything. In fact, we are earning below our usual capacity. So government needs to immediately provide further security to Niger Delta so that these companies who have spent a whole lot of money in their investment to develop these oil wells are able to take advantage of it. And also the nation can also take advantage of it and turn around our economy. So we need to work out on our security in these oil fields and oil installations. And we are the Chamber of Commerce. We are ready to provide government with any support. The government needs to find a creative way of involving those communities who are in these localities so that they can be part of the support circle for security and production.
Thank you so very much. So the message is Nigeria should be better prepared for another opportunity, but this one is like lost already. Thank you so very much, the first Deputy National President Nasima Dele Oye, for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time. Okay, moving on. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Beni Adebayo, has expressed the determination of the federal government to address the challenges of facing the cotton industry with a view to creating jobs for the teeming unemployed youth. Addressing a delegation of cotton farmers, the minister noted the cotton industry has the capacity to transform Nigeria's rural economy and revive the textile and garment industry by creating more than 2 million jobs, improving turnover revenue across 3 tiers of government, reduce $4.0 billion import bill incurred annually on textile and apparel, and foreign exchange, and make Nigeria a global player in textile and apparel subsector. The farmers called on the minister to prevail on the Bank of Industry and the Leasing Company of Nigeria for special intervention for the cotton industry. And moving on, in line with the new policy on MSMEs, which accommodates key changes that occurred in the global socio-economic scene, the German Agency for International Cooperation, GIZ, as part of its work in more than 130 countries, is partnering the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDEN, in providing a workable framework towards linking MSMEs to sources of finance, appropriate technology, and technical skills, as well as providing access to industrial infrastructure such as layouts, incubators, and industrial parks under its Pro-Poor Growth and Promotion of Unemployment in Nigeria program.
In the United States or e-commerce in Europe. And we work on policy level where we look on discipline doing business.
If we work on this thing, it will help in no small way in creating more employment opportunities and then reducing the level of poverty in our country.
And oil futures were mixed on Wednesday, recovering from early losses as the threat of new sanctions on Russia raised supply concerns, countering fears of weaker demand following a build in U.S. crude stockpiles and Shanghai's extended lockdown. Brent crude futures were up 11 cents at $106.75 a barrel, having fallen to $105.06 earlier in session. U.S. West Texas Intermediate futures fell 11 cents to $101.85 a barrel. And gold prices were flat on Wednesday as comments from U.S. Federal Reserve officials strengthened the dollar and Treasury yields to multi-year highs. On that note, let's take a look at the commodities market. And a look at the equities market, stocks declined marginally at the Nigerian exchange Wednesday, just a day after it recorded slight gains. At the close of trade, the all-share index stood at 46,766.16 basis points. Market capitalization also declined marginally to 25.212 trillion naira. 261.5 million shares were traded in 4,668 deals, valued at 2.434 billion naira. Fidelity Bank, Transcorp, and GTCO were the most sought after stocks. And I will look at the global market with Bosede Ebo.
Hello and welcome to the Global Market Review. Now, global investors are awaiting details of fresh international sanctions against Russia after allegations emerge of civilian massacre in Ukrainian towns, now recaptured from Russian forces. European markets declined on Wednesday against a backdrop of aggressive comments from U.S. Federal Reserve officials and further sanctions against Russia. DAX dipped 1.37%, FTSE 0.48%, and CAC 40 also depreciated 1.21%. Technology stocks in Asia-Pacific declined on Wednesday, mirroring losses seen among their peers on Wall Street following an overnight surge in the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield. Chinese tech stocks in Hong Kong dropped, with Alibaba falling 5.36%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index dropped 1.87% on the day to 22,080.52, while in mainland stocks closed mixed as they returned to trade following holidays earlier in the week. The Shanghai Composite was marginally higher at 0.02% across 3,283.43. U.S. stock futures dipped Wednesday as investors await the latest insights into the Federal Reserve's policy tightening. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.45% at 34,394.00. S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite also were on the low. It was a mixed trading session for stocks in Africa, with Nairobi's all-share, Tunisia's Tunidex, and Ghana's GSA Composite posting gains, while South Africa's GSA Africa Top 40 and Namibia's overall index were negative. That's the Global Market Review. I am Boss Sede Able.
On that global note, I will say join us again tomorrow for another fresh edition, exactly 9:30 a.m.